In this video, we're going to talk about the evaluation proposal assignment. This is the final largest assignment before the final exam and will serve as the pre-instructional assignment for this course, as you will also need to retain for the student learning portfolio when you finish the MPA program. What this assignment is basically you developing a template or a proposed evaluation design for a program. This is a really common thing if you are asking for grants and you receive funding to implement a new government program or nonprofit program. You will be asked both to develop a budget and to explain via logic model or some other type of documentation what the program is and is going to do. You will also be often asked to describe the plan that you have to collect data and evaluate this program after it begins. In that same vein, I am not asking you, and you are not going to be asked to actually conduct the evaluation. You are not going to go out and collect any information or data because in this same example with the grants, the program doesn't actually exist yet. The question is to describe to someone who is a third party, specifically like someone reviewing your grant application and looking to give you money. Once you get this money, what is it that you're actually going to do to evaluate this program? And explain it to me so I can determine whether or not I think that is sufficient and adequate to be able to evaluate this program, right? So this serves as a comprehensive plan. You've picked a program, you've in the logic model described what that program is and what that program does. And then based off the outcome or outcomes of interest for that program, you are going to then devise a plan that says, for this program, this is how I would evaluate this program if I were to evaluate it. You're not being asked to actually evaluate it. I'm not asking you to collect any information and provide any analysis of the results or provide any metrics that say the program does or does not work or collect any data. But you should be able to write something that could be handed off to a third party that doesn't know anything about this program and can read it and say, I know enough information about what this program is. I know enough information about what the program should do. And I have a good level of detail about what an evaluation design could be and why that design is chosen and appropriate for this program. So it focuses on how to evaluate the program, and it focuses on justifying the decisions for why you have chosen that design over potentially alternative choices, right? But it does not worry about collecting or analyzing data. So this is right the capstone assignment for this course, and it's asking you to apply all the skills that you've learned because, as you will see, the final evaluation proposal is going to cover having a research question, having a research design, describing the program in the way of a logic model as you have done, asking you what you're going to measure, what your measurement strategy is, telling me about your research design and why you've chosen it, talking about whether you're using sampling and what sampling design. All of that and the explanation of those decisions and the justification for the decisions you've made is part of this assignment and will be part of this final framework for this assignment. The requirements, this is an assignment you are allowed to work in groups if you wish. So if you work individually, you'll submit your own evaluation proposal. You can choose to work in groups of up to 3. I do recognize that tends to be potentially more difficult in asynchronous online classes because you don't potentially know other people, but it is an option, especially as you're looking over the discussion board posts. If you see classmates working on topics or programs similar or the same as you, you're very welcome to reach out and have a conversation. If you do go down that path, you will still do just one evaluation proposal, and each one of the 2 or 3 of you will submit the same copy of the same evaluation proposal, but you will also all receive the same final grade. So there's some trade-offs to doing that. Certainly, right, many hands make light work, but everybody's subject to the same grade, which is a decision for you to make. The focus area, so you're going to choose one specific program outcome. I say this because this is really important. Research designs differ depending on the outcome of choice. If I have a health and wellness program, and part of that is designed to evaluate whether someone's diabetes and their blood glucose levels are stable and not fluctuating widely, but it's also looking to help them decrease their weight, both of those can be outcomes of my program, but each of those would require its own different design. The measurement strategy I would need to measure changes in blood glucose level would be different. I would have to take lab results and I would have to collect and measure those lab results. And I would probably have to collect lab results daily or multiple times a day or multiple times a week over a fixed period of time. Body weight or BMI is not going to change on a daily basis. So I would have to choose whether I'm going to use BMI or I'm going to use something else as my measurement strategy, and it's going to be different than blood glucose. It also means that I'm probably not going to look at daily monitoring. I might look at weekly or bi-weekly measures of body mass index. And I also might have a different period of time. Blood glucose might change a ton based off of diet within a 30-day period. Overall body weight might change not so much in a 30-day period. I might want to evaluate over a 3 or 6 month period. Those are different outcomes. And as you can tell, the choice of the different outcome resulted in me needing to do a completely different research design, completely different research measures, completely different time periods, and so on and so forth. So for your program, even something like Homeboy Industries that has a bunch of services and a bunch of different programs and a bunch of goals, all I'm asking you is to pick one outcome and focus on an outcome that is something that that program should, or at least intends to, deliver, and build your research design, your evaluation around that specific one outcome. Right? There's enough detail and enough material for you to have to both explain the decision, explain the design, and explain the justifications for that decision in the assignment. That if I gave you 2 or 3 choices, right, you have to do that 3 times over. I'd rather you focus on providing a clear, detailed, and well-justified design for one outcome only. The assignment requires use of integration of literature. I have mentioned before, and it says in the syllabus, there is a requirement to cite at least 4 peer-reviewed journal articles. Ideally, these should be other evaluation articles that you have found on similar topics, and you should use those to both either identify parts and designs of your research strategy, so your measurement approach, your research design, things of that nature, or you should use them to justify the decision that you have made, right? So you may be able to say, I found 2 different articles or 3 different articles that use the same government survey to measure exercise behavior. It is a commonplace methodology, and therefore it is both the measurement strategy I plan to employ in my research design, and it is a strong decision because it is something common in evaluation work of this type. You may be able to find articles that are not potentially as translated, right? For example, I might be looking at like blood glucose in a diabetes prevention program, right? The research design of the Taiwanese garbage reduction program, which is nothing like a public health program per se, right? But the fact that they used a 3-month period for their design where they measured garbage volume on a daily basis, that research design from a completely different topic in a completely different article may still translate. And you may be able to say, I intend to use a similar time series design where I used a 90-day period with daily measurement of blood glucose at the same time each day for the person as a measure of whether their diabetes is under control, right? The research design itself is good, and I'm going to apply it to a completely different topic. So don't necessarily think that all 4 of your articles have to be, per se, exact evaluations of very similar or the same programs, because when it comes down to it, you're not going to probably find, if not even 4, maybe 2 that are that close to your program specifically, but build pieces of your design and rationale for that design from other evaluations of other types, right? Research design is not so complicated that there's an endless amount of decisions to make. Many of the decisions can be applied to other different types of programs. Many health programs use same common components. Many economic evaluations do similar things. So you should have no problem finding 4 and using 4. But as I've said, make sure that your justifications are strong. And the best way to do that is to use things that are commonplace in other peer-reviewed literature. If I don't like the way that that research was done, that's an argument between me and the author of that research, not with you. You have done your job of justifying the decisions based off of things that are well-founded, peer-reviewed literature that is a fair way of justifying those decisions. So the format, it is going to be a Word document. It should be up to a maximum of 12 typed double-spaced pages. That does not include any appendices or references section. So you should obviously have a references page with 4 APA-cited sources, if not more, if you've used other things like the website that explains what the program is as part of your logic model and so forth. The appendices as well. I certainly, if you find a FDA nutrition survey online that is perfect, that you want to use verbatim, you should not spend 9 of your 12 pages putting the entire full verbatim text of that survey into your proposal. You should have a half a page or a page that describes in enough detail what that survey is and how it measures, what the measurement scale is. And you should say, for a full detailed breakdown of the entire survey, see Appendix A. That Appendix A can be an appendix to your document. It does not count towards your page total. It does allow an outside reader to know enough information. Every single question and the full details of the survey are available to them if they want to look at it. Right. It doesn't require you then to write all of that detail per se, right? But you can provide enough information in the body of your text and still provide the full source of everything at the end. If you're creating your own measurement strategy, then you need to do a good enough job of explaining what it is, why you've chosen it, and that type of thing. This is an area where I certainly see a lot of folks struggle on this assignment. You should write this as though you are giving these instructions to another person that doesn't know anything about this program or your evaluation design, and expecting them to be able to carry out and execute this research without talking to you, right? So if you say, well, I think in my measurement strategy, we should measure dietary habits and we should use a survey and ask people questions, and that's all you say, right? 15 different people will have 15 different ways of measuring dietary habits and asking questions. Saying, I'm intend to ask exactly these 5 questions, and each one scored 1 to 5 will determine out of 25 total points whether their diet is good or bad, and everyone will be asked the same questions every 30 days starting January 1st. But even that a little additional amount of detail is specific enough that somebody else can read that and say, well, I know exactly what questions they asked. I know how they're going to score these questions. I know to give this survey to somebody every 30 days starting January 1st. And for 3 months or whatever the time period is going to be, right? Somebody can walk away with that information and go do exactly that without needing to speak to you again. So that's the level of, it doesn't need to be so detailed, right? That you say, well, I would build it electronically and using this software, right? Like you only have 12 pages, so it needs to be concise, but it should be obvious what somebody is doing and why you've chosen to do it that way, in such a way that they know enough to understand all of what the design is and the choices that you've made without having to go back and say, well, I need to talk to this person because I don't really understand. They just said that they're going to measure physical fitness using some type of an assessment, but I don't know how many questions. I don't know what type of assessment it's going to be. I don't know any of that other information. So title page and abstract, I don't require it for this. Again, you have 12 pages, appendices, and rubric. Title page is not wholly relevant. The abstract, it is in itself a summary of a proposal, right? So I don't need the additional abstract. You should have an APA formatted references page. Again, that doesn't count towards your page limit, as well as the appendices don't as well. On Canvas, right? You'll see the assignment itself under the evaluation proposal line item. That's where you'll be able to submit it. It'll be due in May. There are 5 examples, again, for you to look at. Again, these are all submissions from different students who have submitted this over different semesters. Each of these submissions I found to be an A quality submission. By no means is every single one of them perfect in all areas. Some of them lost a point or 2 in different places. But looking at those, I highly encourage you to look at each one of them. They're all very, very good. They all do a great job in different ways of fulfilling the requirements of the assignment. You should be able to model your own after both the instructions, the rubric, and these examples to be able to know what I'm looking for to get a good grade on this assignment. The proposal content, not surprisingly, what you're going to see here, you're going to see it looks a lot like all of the things I asked you about on the discussion board posts. It looks a lot like all the different modules that we cover in this course. As I said in previous videos, we are just building towards the culmination, which is this assignment. We're going to take everything that you have learned and it's going to get bundled into one comprehensive detailed proposal using all the bits and pieces of everything you learned. So you're going to be asked to provide an introduction and background section. You should be able to describe what the program is to a person that doesn't know it. You can use a logic model or a narrative or both to describe this is the program, this is what they do, this is who they are. That's your introduction and your background. You should state your research question. You should state your hypothesis. That should be a clear evaluation question hypothesis. That will look a lot like the evaluation discussion post on research questions. You will talk about your dependent variable. You will talk about the dependent variable being the outcome and the measurement strategy, how you're going to measure that and why you've chosen that methodology. You'll also talk about independent variables and control variables. All of this will make more sense once you've learned the subject matter in those different modules when we get to these topics. So you may want to come back to this video later to understand after we've talked about these topics, right? And look at this in retrospect, especially once you get into the point where you're going to start writing this assignment, right? But you'll talk about reliability, validity, and measurement, those type of things. You'll talk about your research design, your X's and O's framework, your control group, your treatment group. If there's any threats to internal validity that you ran into that you think you need to address and that you have addressed through your research design, what your data collection strategy looks like, your sampling, justifications and limitations, right? Why you've chosen this design and what is good or bad about it, right? Not all research designs are perfect. And there are a lot of practical reasons that you will see that cause someone to not be able to potentially make what should be the perfect research design, right? And so they have to settle on things that are good enough, right? That is also the case. I don't expect you to think that your proposal could never be improved upon. I expect for you to justify why it is good enough given the circumstances. And you'll have a references section, right? You won't have any analysis or any data because, as I've said, you're just explaining the choice of the design, how it fits, and why it's a good design. And that will be the content of the proposal. How you get evaluated on this assignment. Again, there are 4 points per criteria. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total criteria for a maximum of 32 points, up to 4 points per category, right? So again, introduction, background section, comprehensive, well-structured introduction to the program. Logic model is key, clear, and all program elements are described. You get 4 points, right? So you have your introduction section. I'm going to ask you for a specific, clear, and answerable research question that aligns with the program and the outcome of your choice. I'm going to ask you to describe the variables that are going to be measured. You've defined them. You've had a comprehensive measurement strategy, and you've justified the strategy, the measurement strategy effectively. You have a research design. You've selected and justified a research design with comprehensive reasoning to fit this program. You have a well-described data process that explains data capture and collection, and it's well thought out and practical. You are going to talk about sampling, and you've justified an appropriate sampling design. You've considered external validity and talk about whether it is applicable or not, and how it is addressed or not addressed, depending on what choices you make. You provide a comprehensive justification of the research design decisions. Your justification could be a separate section if that's preferable. You also can just do your justification in each section as you are going through the document. That is also perfectly fine and an alternative. That choice is up to you, but I am looking for a comprehensive justification that provides a justification for the research design decisions you've made and any potential limitations that you identify yourself that your design does not or cannot grapple with, right? Lastly, 4 points for final presentation, not the presentation assignment, but that it is well written, it's free of grammatical errors, it's organized, it's APA format, it's presented clearly, all of those type of things, right? So that is the rubric with which you will be evaluated against. Look at the different examples. Obviously, they will show you sort of clearly what this assignment is intended to look like. As we go through the semester, it will make a lot more sense as you see the discussion board posts and work through those different assignments and build towards this final accumulative post-instructional assignment, because the work that we are doing in the discussion board posts on a week-to-week basis will be building you towards that. So if you're watching this video at the start of the semester, a lot of what I'm saying may not make a ton of sense, or at least it's a little bit fuzzy to you. Come back in a couple of months, take a look at this video again after you've learned a lot more about these different things, after you've seen the discussion board posts, and then look at the examples. This will all make a lot more sense to you. And this is what is expected of you for the final evaluation proposal, which serves as your pre-instructional or your post-instructional assignment for this course.